So it's pretty weird for me to say this, especially since Tesla has just slashed their prices so dramatically, but I don't think it's really the right time for you to buy your brand new Tesla. And why might that be? Well, I am pretty sure Hardware 4 is coming soon on all Tesla vehicles, and I think that's a big upgrade you don't want to miss. Now in tech, it's generally not advised to just wait for the next best thing because you'll be waiting forever, but I think in this case, it is probably worth it. Since people don't upgrade their cars quite as frequently as they upgrade their cell phones, I think waiting in this case might be the right choice. Now there are very little facts that we have about Tesla's Hardware 4 upgrade, although we do have some. There is some leaks and rumors, and then at the end of the video, we're gonna go over some speculation on my part that I think is gonna be important to play into all of this and help with your decision on either buying a new Tesla and just this overall conversation about Hardware 4 that we're gonna have. So I wanna start off with a little bit of perspective, going back to Tesla's Hardware 2.0 upgrade for their self-driving and autopilot stack. These were the first cars that Tesla made that actually did have hardware that would need a few small upgrades, but could be upgraded to get what we know today as full self-driving or full self-driving beta. Hardware 2.0 came out around October 2016. This included the camera setup we have today, which is 3 up front, 2 side-facing B-pillar cameras, 2 rear-facing side repeater cameras, and a single rear-facing backup camera. It also included radar and ultrasonic sensors. In 2017, the side repeater cameras were slightly upgraded and it was called Hardware 2.5. This gave them a little bit more detail and better color accuracy. Now, a few years later, Tesla gets to Hardware 3, and this is released in 2019. Any Tesla vehicle with Hardware 2 or 2.5 that had the full self-driving option was upgraded to free Hardware 3 for the most part. There's some weirdness in there that I'm not going to go over, but for the most part, if you had Hardware 2 and you had bought full self-driving, even back in 2016, if you still had that car, you could get some upgrades on your car, and it could be enabled to get full self-driving beta to allow the car to do right turns, left turns, roundabouts, and all of those things. Now, this was included as a free upgrade. I say free because you paid for it, but Tesla said that we're going to get you the hardware you need to get up to full self-driving and be able to use our software. Now, what Hardware 3 brought from Hardware 2.5 was an upgraded full self-driving computer. This had 2 chips on it that were redundant, but now Tesla actually uses both of them in some capacity. And early Model 3s actually came with Hardware 2.5. They had the old full self-driving computer. And again, if you had purchased full self-driving, which is kind of the situation I was in, I had a Hardware 2.5 Model 3, Tesla would bring you in as soon as your computer chip was ready. They'd swap it out. It only took a day or a few hours, depending on some software updates you got. Mine actually took overnight, but for some people it was just a couple of hours. And you had the newest, latest Hardware 3, which is still today in 2023, the same hardware that's coming on every Tesla. So it's been 4 years since we've had a hardware upgrade, and in computers, that is an eternity. 4 years is a long time. Processors have gotten much faster, much quicker, much more efficient. They can do many more things. You can fit more onto less space. And you got to think, if that came out in 2019, I remember even at the time it was a 14 nanometer, and everyone's like, we're kind of switching to 7 nanometer here. What are you doing with this 14?
Like in the nanometers, you mentioned 14 nanometers as a... I was wondering, wouldn't it make sense to come a little lower, maybe 10 nanometers 2 years down, or maybe 7?
At the time we started the design, not all the IP that we wanted to purchase was available in 10 nanometer, so we finished the design in 14.
It's maybe worth pointing out that we finished this design like maybe 1.5, 2 years ago and began design of the next generation. We're not talking about the next generation today, but we're about halfway through it. That will, all the things that are obvious for a next generation chip we're doing.
And Tesla's explanation was, well, you know, we've been designing this chip for a bit. It's not like we thought of it and released it the next day. So we're on 14, so you can expect these latest chips will be a much better fabrication process as well. When upgrading from Hardware 2.5 to Hardware 3, it enabled a lot of new features on cars. At first, it wasn't very much. You had like cone recognition and garbage cans and things like that Hardware 2.5 could not display, but Hardware 3 was capable. So just by switching out that computer chip, my car was able to visualize many more things on the road. It also enabled the SAT-LAS feature, which stands for stopping at traffic lights and stop signs, and of course, eventually full self-driving beta. But have you ever thought about the security of a self-driving car? What if someone was able to hack into your self-driving car and control it remotely? Well, today's sponsor, NordPass, can help protect you from hackers. Check out my link in the description below, nordpass.com/dirtyteslayt, or use the code dirtyteslayt at checkout to get an additional 1 month for free. NordPass Password Manager remembers complex passwords, autofills logins and online forms, and lets you access it all from anywhere. NordPass can also help you generate new secure passwords so you won't be tempted to reuse passwords on different websites, which is a huge security no-no. Browse and shop your favorite online stores faster with your credit card and personal details stored securely via NordPass. You can use the same account on 6 devices to make sure you're secure no matter where or how you are browsing the web. On top of all of this, Data Breach Scanner can alert you if any of your online accounts or credit card information has been leaked, so you can take action before it's too late. NordPass is a zero-knowledge password manager, which means that no one else can see what's in your encrypted vault. Thank you again to NordPass for sponsoring this video. Check out the link below for NordPass's best offer. So let's start with the facts, what we know for sure, what has come out of Tesla about Hardware 4. Now, like I said, they're slim, but there are a few things we have. During Tesla's Q4 earnings call, Elon Musk said the Cybertruck will be coming with Hardware 4.
Next investor question is, Elon said previously that FSD Hardware 4 will most likely come first in Cybertruck.
Yeah, Cybertruck will have Hardware 4. It's an incredible product. I can't I can't wait to drive it personally. It will be the car that I drive every day.
He also said Cybertruck production will start mid-2023. So we know Hardware 4 will be installed in vehicles at that time and being delivered to somebody, probably not customers, let's be honest, probably employees, but still. Hardware 4 in vehicles on the road. It stands to reason Tesla's other vehicles will begin to come with Hardware 4 around that same time, perhaps even earlier. Back when Hardware 3 started rolling out, I remember the Model X was actually the first car spotted with Hardware 3 computer chip upgrades. People were seeing it in the software when they even weren't supposed to be, and it slowly rolled out to the whole fleet, and people were delaying their vehicle deliveries and everything because they wanted their Hardware 3. Now, part of me would expect something similar here where it starts to roll out on certain vehicles first. But at the same time, if Hardware 4 comes out and Tesla, announces Hardware 4 or people start spotting it, people are going to be delaying their deliveries like crazy, because I know I wouldn't want a Hardware 3 vehicle when other people are getting Hardware 4 vehicles at the same price at the same time. That makes no sense. And one more unfortunate fact about Hardware 4 that Elon Musk shared during the earnings call, there will be no retrofits. At least that's what he said as of now.
With respect to upgrading cars that have Hardware 3, I don't think that will be needed. Hardware 3 will not be as good as Hardware 4, but I'm confident that Hardware 3 will still far exceed the safety of the average human. So what we're aiming for is well, how do we get ultimately to, let's say for argument's sake, Hardware 3 can be, say, 200 or 300% safer than human. Hardware 4 might be, 500 or 600%. There will be a Hardware 5 beyond that. But what really matters is are we improving the average safety on the road? But it is the cost and difficulty of retrofitting Hardware 3 with Hardware 4 is quite significant. So it would not be, I think, economically feasible to do so.
Maybe at some point there will be partial retrofits for pieces that are easy to change. But it sounds like if you want Hardware 4, you're going to have to buy a new car. Now, a lot of people say lawsuit immediately. I think it's a little more nuanced than that. I think Tesla can probably get away with this. I'm not saying I'm happy with it. I would love a free Hardware 4 upgrade on my car, don't get me wrong. But I think Tesla legally has probably delivered on the promise they gave with full self-driving when they described it. But argue about that in the comments and we'll leave it up to the courts. That's not up to me. I would love a free upgrade, but I just don't think they're going to be forced to do it. So when you're spending big money on a car you're going to keep for 5 to 10 years, it makes sense to wait another few months if possible. This is why I really believe, even if you can delay it, I hate to say it, but like up to a year, just to see, that's a big ask, but not everyone's in a hurry for a car, and they're like, oh, I'd like a Tesla, but no hurry. I would wait and see what's going on with Hardware 4 because we're pretty much guaranteed to see it in vehicles middle of this year with Cybertruck. Now, Elon Musk said Hardware 3 will give 2 to 3 times the safety of humans, whereas Hardware 4 full self-driving could be 5 to 6 times safer than a human. Side note, I don't think that's enough for an actual driverless full self-driving robotaxi. Subscribe because I'm making a whole video about that if you want to see that video. But yeah, so it looks like he's expecting Hardware 4 to be about 2 times safer than Hardware 3 is going to be. Now, it seems some parts of the Hardware 4 upgrade have already leaked. Hardware 4 is expected to bring higher resolution cameras, more processing power, and possibly even new camera positions. Now, out of the leaks we've seen, it looks like the front-facing cameras are going down from 3 front-facing cameras to 2 front-facing cameras. This is rumored to be because of the increased resolution. You don't need that third camera, and in my opinion, it makes sense because the front-facing camera situation doesn't need any help. The car does really good with everything in front of it, and 2 cameras should be able to cover that. There does also seem to be a new fan in the front-facing cameras that'll help with heat and condensation. Condensation can be a problem. It can build up, in my experience, in any of the cameras besides the rear camera, and it can block those cameras temporarily while you first start the car, especially if you don't preheat. If you just get in a cold car and start driving, you can get condensation completely blocking the cameras, which makes full self-driving unusable until that clears up. Some other rumors related to Hardware 4, this whole HD radar situation, it's been covered before, I don't want to go over it too much, but some FCC documents showed that Tesla has something with an HD radar going on. They mentioned revealing something about it in mid-February, but we'll see if that actually happens. And there's no proof that this is going to be used in the full self-driving suite or even put into cars, but there's a lot of evidence that it probably is going to be. Elon Musk has also mentioned in the past that HD radar is something that could be used along with vision. He said low resolution radar is pretty useless, but he has said that HD radar was relevant in the kind of full self-driving equation. We also have Project Highland. There are these Model 3s driving around that are some type of refresh with the fronts and the backs covered up, so we don't know exactly what they changed. This could be related to Hardware 4, but this is a change in the Model 3 along with the same time we're seeing these other Hardware 4 leaks. It's at least something to consider. Now, another rumor is that Tesla will be changing up the positioning of its self-driving cameras. Now, one of the big debates in the self-driving community is about the placement of the cameras, especially when you're talking looking sideways, when you're trying to go straight or do anything basically through an intersection. Currently, Tesla's only way to look sideways are 2 cameras on the B-pillars. There's 1 on each side, and if you're familiar with the car, any car really, a B-pillar is behind the driver's head. So imagine I'm sitting and the B-pillar is going to be behind my head. And as you know, a lot of times as you're driving, you may even need to lean up closer to see before you can make a turn or proceed through something in a dense downtown area. If there's just a bunch of trees in the way, it can be hard, you know, to kind of make that decision, and then you gotta step on it and go really quickly to make sure you get out in front of traffic or whatever you have to do. Well, as of now, those B-pillar cameras, they don't seem like they can see in those situations very well at all, and sometimes the car reflects that in its behavior. It will go to move out into an intersection, it'll creep, 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 and then it'll just gun it. And sometimes you have to hit the brake because somebody's there, or you're not sure, you can't see yourself, so you don't know if it's safe to go yet. And perhaps adding a couple of cameras, honestly, my vote would be in the A-pillars. I think that's a great location that doesn't get dirty, it's high up, and it's much farther forward than a human head is ever going to be. I think that's a really good place where they could add new cameras. Now, another option that I've discussed before and others have discussed is the repeater cameras. Right now, they are only rear-facing, but if you could edit that little housing, actually, let me grab it, I have one right here. So if you pretend you are looking at my car, this camera is looking backwards. So this is the front of my car and this is the back of my car. If you could edit, you know, this little piece of hardware and put a camera right here, perhaps, that faces directly out this way, now you have a much farther forward camera that is facing the side. You could have one of these on each side, and that kind of fixes it up right there. And Elon Musk did say there would be no retrofits going from Hardware 3 to Hardware 4, but how easy would this be to pop out and pop in the new piece of hardware that fits there and get those side-facing cameras? So my expectation is that Hardware 4 will enable much smoother maneuvers versus Hardware 3. Lower speed situations, especially in downtown, I don't think we're gonna see a huge difference. I think a lot of that comes to the code and the neural nets and everything they're doing kind of behind the scenes, besides the hardware. But when you're talking about high-speed situations, I think this is where Hardware 4 is really gonna shine. I have many examples of high-speed cross-traffic being a problem for the car, and it's pretty interesting because for the most part, I should say, the car doesn't go bolting out in front of high-speed traffic, but what I do see quite often is you'll have high-speed traffic, say above 50 miles per hour coming from your left when you're trying to make a right turn, and the car will act as if it's gonna go, which is a bit scary, and then it'll hit the brake decently hard when it kind of see, it's like, oh wait, there's somebody there. So it seems to me like the car cannot see far enough. To me, it was very obvious that there was a car there. I wasn't even thinking of going, but the Hardware 3 equipped Tesla Model Y that I drive has a split second there where it thinks it's safe, and then it sees the car approaching kind of at the last second and hits the brake and waits for them. With higher resolution, more powerful cameras, that should be a problem that can be fixed pretty easily with hardware. Something else that is sorely needed, in my opinion, is some redundancy in the system. Now, I don't know how this works with regulations or anything, but Tesla has talked about this themselves in the past with hardware 3. They actually had this redundancy in the computers, and they said if one of these computers fails or dies, you got the other one, it's not a big deal. The car can still drive and then finish the drive and say there's an error and maybe not restart, or however they want to handle that. Well, at some point, Tesla decided they needed some more compute power, so they stopped the redundancy and they started using both of those chips for some of the decision making. But I think in a driverless car or an airplane or a train, you have all these fail safes where stuff can fail and the vehicle can still operate, at least to an extent, to maybe safely pull over or safely get to its destination and then not do future trips. So I really believe we need more redundancy in these systems, because if your front camera gets covered, the car can't see out of the front anymore. Maybe have, you know, some kind of small backup camera in the corners. I'm just making stuff up, but there has to be something there where, you know, a bird crapping on your windshield isn't going to be the end of your entire full self-driving adventure. Now, what if I'm wrong? Well, I'm not. Hardware 4 is coming. It is definitely coming sometime in 2023, and we're going to be seeing it on at least the Cybertruck, but I believe all of Tesla's lineup, I would say within the first half of this year, but almost guaranteed by the end of 2023, unless there's some major, you know, catastrophe or something that stops all of that. Either way, Tesla is constantly improving their cars, and waiting a couple of months has never really hurt, as Tesla always adds new things and makes the cars better. But hardware 4 is something I'm really excited for. We saw a huge jump from the Intel to the Ryzen performance. Opening apps like Netflix or the web browser are so much better in those new Ryzen cars. So while that's not related to the performance of full self-driving, a new chip for full self-driving, I could see that making a big difference in the way the car makes decisions, how quickly it makes decisions, the accuracy, the consistency, pretty much all of the way full self-driving operates could be improved with a faster computer chip, especially new hardware. I'm hoping we see some type of cameras. My vote is actually the A-pillar. I think would be a great spot for side-facing, but something a little farther up. It just seems that the cameras are not quite far up enough to see side to side, in my opinion, but I'm sure Tesla knows something that I don't. But overall, I'm excited to see what hardware 4 brings and how it will improve our overall self-driving experience. So if you have any questions, please leave those down below. I will talk to you down there, and you will see me in the next video. And thank you again to NordPass for sponsoring today's video. Check out my link below, nordpass.com/dirtyteslayt, or use the code dirtyteslayt at checkout to get your free month.